The only sad experience I had was in Morocco, where I experienced racism, like shamelessly from them. I missed my connecting flights because of them, and they said to me that I was entitled to accommodation. So I went to them. There was this, because I was heading to Switzerland, and there was this other lady heading to Switzerland, the same flight from Nigeria with me. So I went to them, and they gave her accommodation outside of the airport. And then I said, okay, my own accommodation. I said, I'm going to stay in a lounge.
Huh?
I was like, what do you mean? Am I not supposed to have an accommodation? He said, no, you cannot get it. I said, why? I said, because you have a Nigerian passport. You don't corner your way through confidence. You have to be able to go through that challenge. That challenge that you're seeing is what gets you to where you need to be in life. And if you are not willing to, then I'm not sure you're ready for the dream that you have. When I watch my TEDx talk, I feel proud.
And I felt so proud to be out here.
So if you are to be the guiding compass of changing the societal mindset, what will that be based on the reflection of you yourself by experience? Maryam Bello, you are welcome to YDEEN TV podcast. We're so happy and glad to be with you in our studio. So before we start, we would like you to introduce yourself the way you would like us to introduce you.
All right, thank you so much, Yusuf. I'm Maryam Bello. I'm from Kebbi, Nigeria, which is quite interesting because people usually are surprised. I spent the past decade working across entrepreneurship ecosystems, being an entrepreneur myself, and also working on the policy side along with the public and private sector. I currently serve on the Global Leadership Council of UNICEF, and I am the CEO of Telecom, which is basically an infrastructure that turns what entrepreneurs across emerging markets build into something that's money can trust.
We would like you to give us an insight of your educational background, looking at your confidence, what you have achieved, and the places you went and the speeches you delivered. It has to do with how you were able to, be excellent in that regard.
I mean, I don't know if I'm excellent for my educational background. I actually finished secondary school 6 years ago. And then I took a 5-year gap from school. And then I decided to start up in university last year. So when you related education to my confidence, I think there are so many different factors that influences somebody's confidence in how they speak. And for me, it wasn't just school. School helped me with exposure, understanding how to communicate and some of these basic things. Primary and secondary education are like the most essential part of education. But for me, the confidence is something I'll attribute to family. Family as one of the factors in the sense that I have 5 brothers and I'm the only girl. And growing up, I used to, fight a lot with my brothers. And because of that experience, when you go out, you just feel like, if I can handle this person at home, maybe I shouldn't be scared of this other person.
Yeah.
So indirectly, it kind of made me confident. But also the things that you hear around you and about you as a young person influences how you see yourself. My father would always say to me that I'm different, that I'm always going to be different. And because of that, wherever I went, I always felt special. Like nobody needed to say, Maryam, you're special. I always felt I was special because of the things my dad would say to me. And alhamdulillah, for the exposure I had early on, I was always in a place where I'm usually, let me use the word, the main character. So maybe as a public speaker or someone that's handling leadership roles, I always volunteered to take leadership roles. And this really helped me a lot in terms of confidence. And then my experiences along the way. Confidence doesn't just build in one day. All the experiences I've had all up until sitting here has also influenced my confidence.
If I met 16-year-old Maryam, what would her dream be like?
At the age of 16, I actually had a dream back then. And it was I wanted to, because Nigeria has this bad reputation when it comes to cyber crimes. So, and I had watched this film called 24 with my elder brother. And he said he was going to study cybersecurity. And I love him so much. I decided, okay, I'm also going to study cybersecurity. And I still have that dream. And the thought around that was when I travel outside of the country and I learn cybersecurity to the best of my ability, or how I see it in movies and how it looks so cool, then I'll come back to Nigeria and help us regain a reputation. That was the thought around that. But the things that I said to myself that I was going to do when I went to school, like outside the country, were things I ended up doing when here in Nigeria, and then I continued in that path. So the dream has always been about the country, but eventually dreams change. I became about the continents, became about seeing Africa better, seeing entrepreneurs better, seeing our lives better.
What is one thing people get wrong about you?
One thing we get wrong about me, because of judging from where I am today, or where people see me today, they usually think that I had it easy. So when I'm telling somebody, oh, you can do it, it's just like this lady is just saying anything to me. But the reality is that I didn't always have it easy. I had to fight for things. I had to earn things. I had to push myself, and I cry a lot when things are stressing me out. Not like every time, but like once in a while. And all of these things, like, it's not easy, but people still think I have it very easy. I don't. The journey is never really easy. I mean, Spider-Man says with hardship comes with responsibility. It might sound like a quote just in a movie, but it's the reality. It's never really been easy for me, but alhamdulillah.
Reflect us back through your struggles, your journey, how you were able to navigate through a lot of challenges, how you started.
When I started, especially learning skills, particularly at coding, I remember back then I was in SS3, and my mentor came to the school back then, and I had written a storybook because I saw that a lot of young people were writing storybooks, and I was like, I want to also write and publish. So I saw her, and you know how you see these NGO people as a young child and you're thinking they're like as rich as Elon Musk or all the stuff. So I went to her and said to her that I wanted to publish my book, and she said to me that I have to come to her NGO in Gwarimpa. Back then I was staying in Ibadan. I was like, well, my father allowed me to go there because I'm like 14 and I'm his only daughter, and I know he's strict about that sometimes, me moving to a very far place. But eventually my teacher was able to convince my mom, and then with the first time we went there together. But every time I had to meet my dad and say, oh, give me transfer money, he would know that, oh, I'm always going there. And then he would be like, am I not going there too much? He might not necessarily understand it entirely, but he was supportive. Yeah. So eventually, I would save up my transfer money, the money I would use for bike to go back home from when I got there. I would save that money up. I'll go to a cyber cafe, pay 100 naira to build, to code on their computers. And then sometimes we need to come to Gwarimpa for this training. And my friend, who was also part of my motivation back then, would say, oh, I don't have transport money. And then I'll be like, don't worry, I have money. I've saved up like 500. And then when she comes, we'll pay like 150 to Gwarimpa. And we became so popular amongst the bus station because when the bus drivers coming, and then there's these guys these aberos on the road that used to load the car, we say to them, don't carry these people, they want to laugh. That's how popular we became. It was quite challenging, but it was also very rewarding, alhamdulillah. And these are the parts of things people didn't see. And during that time, I wasn't winning. At least I was winning, but not that I could have actually said back then I was winning, because I was participating in competitions and I was not making it. I had dreams and did not have money. I wanted to be in America and I had not traveled. All of these things. America was a big dream back then. Now life is bigger and I don't go to one country. But it was all of these challenges that alhamdulillah built me in terms of resilience. Was it that built me in terms of knowing what it's like to struggle to get somewhere, and sometimes how challenging the journey gets. People may not necessarily see it unless you have the experience. And I think for me, aside from talking about goals and everything, it's something that has helped me build empathy and humility, because people may not necessarily get it, but the best experience God grants you as a human is to actually start from below and then move up, because you understand what it's like to be there, down there. You understand what it takes to get up there, and you understand what it's like to continue remaining up there.
What was your breakthrough feel like? Like the first time you were being recognized, the first call you had, or the first email you received that completely changed your life?
So for me, I don't necessarily look at my journey from a single perspective, because everything is like a thread that's meant to form a cloth. Just like this, sewing different material, bringing different colors together, and then forming this material now that I'm wearing. For me, I don't have a single experience that I can point to and say this is the moment of breakthrough. However, how I'll describe that moment for me is a series of journeys. And it started with when, after all the rejections I had been getting, all the challenges, all the nuts, people would always call me, back then my neighbor would see me going out on Saturday, because usually on Saturdays I would go after school. I would dress up and they're like, oh, you're going to Guarimpa. It became a way of actually mocking me because there was no result to show for it. But I knew I was going to Guarimpa. That was just how it was. But one day, I was 17 though, and then my co-founder reached out to my mentor for my health startup, not Teleka. And that's Parker's Mobile Clinic. He reached out to my mentor and he said to her that he would want me to work with him as his co-founder. It felt really exciting and very scary. Very exciting because now I was actually going to be part of something that implements real solutions that actual people use. But at the same time, very scared because I always was doing competition. I don't understand how I'm supposed to be helping people in the health field, and I'm not a doctor. And I was like in SS2 when we started. So all of these things were quite interesting. But eventually, when I was 18, and it was in January, I got into this program called Micronutrient Forum, and I was a top 4 finalist. I was 18 years old, and the remaining 3 people, I remember there was a man from Ghana who looked around 45. And then the other Asian people that were like, no, Asians look young, but like early to mid 30s. So I was the youngest person. Mentally, I had already disqualified myself because I was like, oh, these guys are running these things. They already understand what it's like to build. I'm just somebody that's like there, you know. So I already just disqualified myself. We were supposed to go to India, but we had to pitch virtually because of the COVID. And I remember when we were pitching, I pitched well because I'd been pitching, I'd been presenting since I was like 11.
Yeah.
And then when it was time to answer questions, I was already panicking. And you know, when someone is panicking, you can actually hear their voice shake. And then they asked me questions that I had answers to. But because I was scared and I was already telling myself these people are better than me, I answered with fear and I did not answer the question well. And the way you answer a question tells if you understand what you're doing. It's all about understanding. And so I didn't make it. But I was at least happy that I got to top 4. But that was when I challenged myself that I was going to put myself in situations like this where I have to interact with older people. Because when I started my first initiative, I was, if I'm in a room with 100 people today, there's 2 scenarios. It's either I am the only girl or I'm the youngest person. It's always like that because I started so early. So I'm always with older people. I started challenging myself more, applying for more programs, competitions, volunteering as well, because I really loved volunteering a lot. So I put myself in a place that challenged me to move out of my comfort zone. And I cannot think of a specific program because there are multiple that has happened and I've not really sat down to reflect on it, like which one was the most groundbreaking for me. But because of these experiences, I was now able to overcome imposter syndrome. And today I would speak to a president and I would still sound like the way I'm speaking right now. At the end of the day, we're humans who are trying to achieve something, and we need each other in one way or the other. Now I understand my value more. Now I understand what I bring, and I understand how it intersects with your need. And so I don't feel less important. I don't bring that hierarchy mentally in my head that you're better than me. You obviously, people are that better than me in certain things. I learned from this. You have to have that humility. What's helped me achieve more faster as a young person, it put me out there and it made me, alhamdulillah, loved. Not just loved, but needed at the same time. So yeah, for me, it was the fact that I was able to overcome those fear. And these are the things that then led to the chain reaction of the progress that I've had.
If you are to mentor or to guide a young lady somewhere around the world that is battling with imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, what would be your advice to her on how to overcome and to build this level of confidence of having the ability to express yourself, to deliver a speech before anyone, whether president, leaders, captain of industries, you know?
If there's something that I do, it's not just one thing. So the thing is that when somebody begins to have imposter syndrome, it does not just start externally alone, because people could say things to you and then you begin to believe them, but it also starts internally. And the things you say to yourself, the things you consistently remind yourself about. So now, before I go straight to giving her the advice, let me give you an example. You know how today you probably just have 20,000 naira in your account and you're like, I don't have money. And you keep saying, I don't have money. After a while, even when you have money, you feel like you don't have money because you've thought yourself that you don't have money.
You have already programmed yourself.
Yes. So even when you have money, it's just never enough mentally for you because you've already told yourself you don't have money. And because you don't have that money, even when you have your pot to you, that's how you told yourself. So now, people would say anything to you as a young woman, especially considering women from the North. There's a lot of misconceptions about the North. I understand why. Some partly our faults, partly misconceptions, and then sometimes social media propaganda, right? But people would always say negative things. People would always assume you're not good enough. All you have to do is prove them wrong, but they should not be your motivation alone. You experience challenges. Now, let me use from the Islamic perspective. Allah grants, it gives you challenges. Sometimes I'll call it a blessing. People just don't realize. Allah grants you challenges so that you grow. You go through it and become a better version of you. So momentarily, you would say to me, this girl is broke, right? And when you say that to me, it hurts me, but I know that I want you to understand that it's just temporary and eventually I will be better than what you think about me. In that moment, you are the drive that I need to get better, but you are not my motivation to be better. So now what I'm trying to explain in this sense is, first of all, thinking of the external negativity that people absorb, that messes with their self-confidence, that messes with how they think about themselves and where they see themselves. If your family member thinks you are good, you're not good enough, it's in that moment you're so angry and you want to prove them wrong. That is the momentary, how do I put it, drive that you need, because they get you angry and they get you moving in that moment. That's how you begin to shape your mindset that way. You need to understand it that way. But why you want to be who you are, or why you want to get to where you need to be or where you want to be, should be bigger than the person that's saying the negative thing to you. Because if that person decides to not pretend to be nice to you, then you forget about what you're trying to do. But if your reason is bigger than what people might understand, like your why you started, or why you have to leave this certain situation to get to the next situation, phase in your life, if it's bigger than them, then they become that thing that pushes you or keeps you in motion. right? So now forget about these people, because it's not like they don't entirely matter. They actually matter in driving you. The negatives push people. But now, thinking about where you want to be, remind yourself as a person, if I don't do it, nobody will do it for me. It's the reality. Nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And sometimes you'll be the person that saves every other person. It just depends on what Allah has destined for you. You have to remember that if I don't do it, nobody will do it for me. And the best way to ever become better or to overcome a fear is going through the challenge. My mentor says, go through the challenge, not around it. Because you have to be built for the next level. Yes, you have to face it. It's scary, but you have to understand that it's a phase, it's not forever, right? Allah does not burden the soul more than it can bear. You have to go through that challenge. You understand that there's a lot of negatives, which are the externals, but within you, why do you want to be different? Even if they don't see it, even if you don't see something realistic that's going to actually help you get there, you know you want to get there, you know you can, because you have the most powerful power on earth, which is Allah. Then you begin to use what the negatives people say to you as a means to move forward in life. Then again, for me, let me give more practical examples, so it's not just the theoretical aspect. So for me, if I hear, like I said to you back then, my neighbors sometimes would say, oh, you're going to Guarimpa, but you know it's mockery, right? And it's like I'm saying, oh, I'm winning this competition, blah, 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 I'm never winning to them, right?
Yeah.
At some point, I'm like, I want to prove them wrong. But they are not the reason why I started going to Guarimpa in the first place to learn. It was because I believed I could be different. That was the first step. Then later on, the motivation continues to change, and it's okay. Later on, I realized that if Allah makes me as big as Dangote, and I have the mentality that I have, and I'm able to carry 50 people along with me, and 50 people are spread across Nigeria, and then it creates more ripple effect of impact, and it spreads across Africa, then that means that Africa can still be better. The government will do their own work, but we don't necessarily need them entirely. Yeah. So I'm thinking about continent-wide. What I'm trying to do is bigger than one person's negativity. Yeah. But in that moment, they remind me of where I am and where I want to be. And then my anger or my sadness pushes me further. And it's all grace to actually be able to think about it that way, wisdom. So then I continuously still go to Guarimpa, even if people are not understanding why, even if I'm sometimes doubting that what I'm doing makes sense. I'm still going there. I'm still showing up. I'm still speaking in public. There was even a time, let me give you an example again. There was a time when I was in SS2. I know I'm a good public speaker, alhamdulillah, but not like as good as now. Yeah. But then one day I was in class, and I'm just trying to explain to you what it's like to push yourself until you get better, to overcome fear. I was in class, and we had to deliver a debate, and for some reason I don't know what happened, I was scared, and that brought about fear. For the first time, I had the stage fright. I was too scared to go on stage again after that time, after the embarrassment and everything. I was too scared, but it was just in my head. Nobody was even concerned about it. So later on, when I was in SS3, because I had not gone on stage or anything again, and I said to myself, if I don't push myself, does that mean I'll never go on stage again? So I decided I would join press club in school. And then I wrote a newsletter. I was writing the news that was delivered on the assembly ground. But I was not the one delivering it. Then one day, the person who was supposed to deliver it was not there, and they were like, I should do it. I was scared. But then I went back on stage, and I did, and everybody clapped for me, and I was happy. That was how I was able to overcome that stage fright that I had temporarily. So
you remotivate yourself?
Yes. You only get better by facing the challenge. If you go around it one way or the other, you'll be shaking. One way or the other, you'll be shaking. And I sometimes tell yourself that you can do it, because I know how many people have doubted me, or how many people will there's this thing that happens when you go on, you are within the public sector space. They say to you, they use the word youth. The moment the word youth comes out, sometimes it annoys me right now when I hear the word youth, because the people that are supposed to be serving us, they are the top, but they're actually meant to be serving us. That's why you're there. See us as beneficiaries. But when you are there and you're delivering and you're giving yourself constant practice, fear, and then you go on stage, you prove them wrong in the best way ever. I remember I had this impromptu invite when I went to New York last year for the first time for the United Nations General Assembly, and UNDP invited me to speak at the UNHQ, and I was introduced by the Assistant Secretary General. He was sitting next to me. When I was speaking, when you're just there, you're just thinking another young person is there. And Alhamdulillah, I was able to speak from a systems level. And I saw the recording afterwards. I could see people's reaction to that, because they come thinking you are just coming to advocate, but you know better than just advocacy. And then you go down, you prove them wrong. You don't prove them wrong from that room. You prove them wrong from all the times you have been failing and failing and failing. When I watch my TEDx talk, I feel proud. Yeah. But actually, it took me 3 months to know what I wanted to say for my TEDx talk. I kept making mistakes. I kept saying to my friend, they said this is a theme, I don't know what to talk about. It took me a long time. Now I'm using public speaking because that's one of the things people know me for, aside from being an entrepreneur and all. It took me a long time to practice and practice and practice and fail. I wrote different scripts and I was not sure which one spoke more to me. Every time I practice, it was just somehow, right? And every time I go on stage and I speak, people still see it as I'm doing so well as a public speaker, but there's a lot of mistakes in the background. So that is what I'm saying. I know I've spoken a lot, but I need every young person listening to me here today, not just young, honestly, older people too need to hear it. You don't corner your way through confidence. You have to be able to go through that challenge. That challenge that you're seeing is what gets you to where you need to be in life. And if you are not willing to, then I'm not sure you're ready for the dream that you have. You have to be willing to go through challenges.
You are from the north, and you know the challenges a lot of young ladies are facing when it comes to access to education, privileges, and the rest. So if you have the power to change that, what would you change?
When it comes to northern women or the northern part of Nigeria, the first thing I would want to do is to work on their mentality. The first thing I want to do in terms of mentality is for them to understand what is culture, what is religion, what is education, what is okay, and what is not okay. Because there's a mix of all these things, and then it makes it difficult to understand. So, for example, when the first time I ever traveled out of Nigeria, I went for a robotics competition in Uzbekistan, and one girl was supposed to go with me. I've never met her, and I still never met her. Eventually, her father said she could not come. Wow. Maybe it's because he felt she was a girl. My father was scared because I was 17 and I was going to travel alone, no mentor, nobody, and it's my first time traveling out.
Exactly. But he took the risk.
He took the risk, the trust, and faith in God. First, so the education system in northern Nigeria is not education alone itself, because there's always a grassroots level to a problem. People confuse culture for religion. And we are big on religion, right? But which one is culture? Which one is what people thought was right, not what Allah said, right? Because if you actually look at Islam, it is very, very empowering to a woman. Every time I say, Inshallah, when I get married, may Allah grants me a husband like the prophets. If you look at Islam, Islam empowers women a lot. Islam encourages us to work for riches, but also be grounded in our faith. That is why when you meet a good, successful Muslim, you see that they are very kind, they are very humble, no matter where they get to. We need to understand those differences first. And then when we understand the difference, then you realize the things that are limiting women especially realize that people think if a woman is successful. I saw your latest podcast with that very pretty lady. I can't remember her name. And she says, yeah, she said something about how they think you cannot, as a woman, if you have gotten to this place, you have done something immoral. It's a mindset problem because they think that women cannot go that far. But women can. They think you cannot go that far and still be humble or still be grounded in the faith. Yeah. So when we understand this, then we begin to bring about empowerment. May not necessarily be in the form of formal education. Empowerment in a way that women are learning skills, women are part of decision making. It's going to be a long way, but when you bring out women that fight for their right as well, and then you bring men that fight for women's right, your society will be the best. My auntie said to me when I traveled to Kebbi, I think it was in June or something. I don't remember when small Salah, okay, it was in March. I went to Kebbi for Eid. And I don't know, it felt like it was the first time I was having this conversation we had. And she said to me, oh yeah, that I'm doing this, I'm working on this business. I sometimes will travel for a conference in Abuja. She's doing a lot. And I was like, you're this smart, and I did not know because we've not had time to talk like this. Not kids. Yeah. So when we spoke, she told me that because of all the things she's doing, people started speaking around that she's sleeping around with men. So it's these societal challenges that
mindset.
People. It's a mindset problem. Yeah. But there's so much mix of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that nobody knows what is the middle. Yeah. When we're able to work on that, education will be better.
So to you, what measures should be taken in order to at least reduce the level of this kind of obstacles that are hindering women from achieving their goals?
I don't know. Honestly, I still don't have.
No, based on your own experience, like yeah. As if you are to mirror yourself as the guiding light,
what would it be? So you ask, the question is around the major they should take, like in school.
The majors, like generally, as you mentioned, we have societal mindset problem.
Yeah.
Of thinking that women should be kept, they should not be allowed to move around, and there are certain places that they should not be allowed to go there because of the sensitivity,
yeah.
All these things. So if you are to be the guiding compass of changing the societal mindset, what will that be based on your own, the reflection of you yourself by experience?
For me, I think one thing that shapes a person's mentality greatly is exposure. So now imagine if, and now I'm not sure I'm going to give you the most concrete feedback yet, considering that even our government have not been able to solve it, but I have an idea of what could be done. There is power in hearing from somebody that has been able to overcome a certain kind of challenge. We have really smart and interesting women from northern Nigeria. Dangote's daughters are inspiring to me, grounded in faith, in culture, and business. They can still be running businesses and still be doing what they do and still be really respectful women. You look at the family of Dantata, they empower women. If you notice, people need to start saying this before I even give you the concrete feedback. If you look at the wealthy families in Nigeria, especially from the north, their women are very, very empowered. You look at this El-Rufai's daughter-in-law, Aisha. She runs this sports, SWA sports stuff like this. And she's doing really well in it. If you come in a room where, maybe not someone like me that speaks only English, not only English, but like, if you come in a room, you bring like 100 women now in a room where they see Dangote's daughter speaking to them in Hausa, telling them stories, because what people connect to in this age of AI and the technology and everything is being human. If we organize more programs are not necessarily, but northern Nigeria still needs to come up, especially the really rural part of it. If you come to these women, organize something that you actually care about, and you bring these women that are inspiring, that they would think initially, oh, these are mini gods or something, or demigods. And then they speak to them and they see these people are humans. This is how my journey was. If their daughter begins to try to do something, those parents become supportive. Because the problem is not in the person who does not have the opportunity alone. It is also that the people around them who are supposed to empower them, their parents, are not empowered. Their religious leaders are not empowered. They don't understand. Now this even it brings about mentality thing. And now if you look at a lot of situations with like, let me use the word some northern men, especially those that have the scarcity mentality, they feel threatened by a woman who's exposed. But as a man, you are not only a man because you have money. That you have to bring substance, because that's what makes anything work. Now, a lot of men don't want to be with a woman that's intelligent or that woman that's exposed. All of these things are societal problems, but by the time you bring these women, because you go and you actually see that the successful women are usually the most decent women you come across. Because you don't get to the top, at least some get to the top by deceit, but you don't get to the top without discipline.
So now let's move towards your entrepreneurship activities. I would like you to tell us more about how you started and what you were able to build and the journey so far.
Okay, maybe I'll start with Parkers. For Parkers, we have been able to reach around over 150,000 Nigerians across Nigeria with primary health services. One of the recent projects that we worked on was around climate change, because even before we implemented climate and health, it was something that I was already researching on my own. And when we found the intersection, we began to work on it, because there's the problem of food security, there's the problem of micronutrient malnutrition. There's always the basic cause of things that's not obvious. And those are the things we were focusing on. But more of everything we did was around accessibility. How can, no matter what we provide, how can it reach people? So we built a telemedicine platform that enables people to speak to a doctor virtually. Then what I'm actually focusing on right now the most is Telecar. The idea of Telecar was born on the 26th of July, which was a day after my birthday last year. But what actually inspired me to think about Telecar was when I gave my TEDx talk. During that time, I mentioned that I was struggling to know what to talk about, because it meant that I needed to make deep research. And in that process, I realized that it reminded me of why I started, because sometimes you forget why you started something. And in that moment, I remembered why I started the things that I started. And then I said to myself, I know healthcare is good, but Allah has just put this big dream in my heart. And I know that I'm going to get there, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So I remembered why I started in the very first place, because I think along the way, I began to focus on the problem of today and forgot where I wanted to be. And I knew that I don't see myself solving healthcare and that's it. I see myself being the reason why it's possible to solve millions of problems that exist. And so I started Telecar. Telecar, I mentioned, Toronto started building towards something that money can trust. But in reality, what Telecar is, in more plain English, is that, first off, we are trying to see that founders across emerging markets with a very strong focus on Africa for our first 3 years are able to access money to scale what they have built. So there's no scale up money. There's always fear of risk involved with investing in a region like Africa that doesn't have standards and structures and all of that. So we're building what we consider to be the credit score for founders, where founders are using agents to access finance that already exists, but at the same time building their credibility like an ID that they can connect to banks to collect different forms of capital, maybe debt, loan, or for investors who give venture capital funding or grants. Any form of financing can plug into Telecar. so that way credibility is no longer a problem. You're able to prove. You don't need to know Dangote, but I'm going to know Dangote soon, inshallah. You should see this video. I'm going to know him soon.
Yeah.
But you don't need to know Dangote or Tedola to get money. You don't need to. This is the idea, because I know what it's like to not know anybody and how frustrating it is. You don't need to know anybody. Your credibility speaks for itself. Your progress compounds into something that you bring as credibility, and then an institution uses that. That's all you need. And then institutions have more of a transparent way of evaluating people from emerging markets, and it's just a system that we're building, a long-term system, but we consider it to be an infrastructure. So we are in our early stage right now, but we launched in May, and we have around 3,000 founders across various African
3,000.
Yeah, across various African countries currently on the platform, and we're about running a pilot with, until it's signed, I don't want to mention their name, so that it's not breaching agreement.
Exactly.
Or one UN initiative as well, and their ventures team as well, which is quite interesting and validating for what we're building. And yeah, so that's where we are.
Okay, so can you give us maybe a few success you have been able to achieve throughout your journey of entrepreneurship, building the telecar?
I know there's what people would consider success is the big wins. But for me, like I will tell you the other ones that when I started, what success was to me and what I had achieved in that sense. But the biggest achievement for me was the fact that I have been able to influence people without even realizing it to actually become entrepreneurs. I remember one specific example, one of my mentees who I met when I went to speak at one Google Dev Fest program here in Abuja. And he said he wanted to launch his healthcare startup. Everything was scary and no money and all. I was able to mentor this guy until he broke everything down, and now he's opening his second branch of his pharmacy. So he was not doing anything like implemented until we met. And there are hundreds of people like that I've impacted. And then the random messages I get on social media that people tell me how they're able to move from point A to point Z because of something I said makes me happy, because it reminds me of why I started, and it was for people. And if I ever forget, because it happens once in a while, they remind me. For me, that's my biggest success. But I always wanted to travel, and I've traveled a lot, alhamdulillah. And I like traveling.
Can you give us like the number of countries you have traveled, your experience, country by country, the good side, the bad sides, and the rest?
I haven't I don't know how many countries. Sorry, I usually try to calculate it.
Yeah.
Why?
The one that you can remember.
Okay, you asked me for experience. I would give you an experience that I remember from various countries.
Yes.
But I need to sit down to calculate them. I was trying to use this app that calculates how many countries we've gone to, but it was not working. But yes, for me, my first experience that I remember was in Uzbekistan. I was the youngest person on the team, the only girl, and the only person in secondary school. The rest were boys in universities.
Yeah.
I was so confident back then because it was a robotic game where there's a table and then there's like football. Your robots are playing football. You build a robot to play football. And during that football game, so now, because remember that girl that was supposed to come with me did not come, and everybody has a two team.
Yes.
Because you have to play against two people.
Whoa.
So yeah, so I was supposed to be disqualified, but I couldn't be because I'd already flown all the way from Nigeria, so they still allowed me to play. So now I was the only one-man team, the only girl in my category, the youngest person, and the only person in secondary school. And then when we were in the bus, we were heading to see places in the country. And then because they had these coordinators assigned to people. So one of the coordinators said to me, how are you going to win this without a team? And oh God, I was so overconfident. I said to him, if Ronaldo is going to score the ball in the goal post, does he score the goal with somebody else? Isn't he doing it alone? I was so confident, I was just laughing. I ended up losing though, but they announced me as champion of the day, so it was still a win. And the one that relates to, it was a very beautiful experience for me. One again was in Azerbaijan, where it was really safe to walk around as a woman. I really, really loved that. Then the only sad experience I had was in Morocco, or at least the one that really hurts me was in Morocco, where I experienced racism, like shamelessly from them. When I missed my connecting flights because of them, and they said to me that I was entitled to accommodation. So I went to them. There was this, because I was heading to Switzerland, and there was this other lady heading to Switzerland, the same flight from Nigeria with me. So I went to them and they gave her accommodation outside of the airport. And then I said, okay, my own accommodation. So I'm going to stay in a lounge. I'm like, what do you mean? Am I not supposed to have an accommodation? He said, no, you cannot get it. I said, why? He said, because you have a Nigerian passport. I was so angry, and I made a scene there, but that experience taught me something. The reason why some of these things happen is because a lot of people don't speak up.
Yeah.
Why I say that is, when I was so angry, did whatever I could, and I still couldn't get a place, and it was intentional, because at some point you begin to realize what they're hiding from me. I went to sit in a lounge, and one of the people that was standing there when I was there was somebody that works in the ministry here in Nigeria, and he experienced the same thing, but he did not say a thing. People did not say anything, and a lot of Nigerians did not get accommodation because they are Nigerians, and there's actually a hotel in the airport. So when I sat there, I slept on the floor. The next 24 hours was the next flight, and it was because of them I missed my flight, because they delayed in Nigeria. It made me realize that as much as we have the dream of trying to make Africa great, there's a lot of work we need to do as Africans.
Honestly speaking,
we are not kind to ourselves. Even within the country, we are not kind to ourselves. There's already separation across religion, across tribe, and now across the ones that are looking Arabians and the ones that are black. All of these differences were things I did not know existed until I had the experience. And that's not even the worst experience I had in Morocco. So it was bad, but it just taught me that, and again, it helped reshape my mentality in terms of the big dream that I have for Africa and what's actually possible, considering the reality and what needs to be done to get a better outcome from the dream.
Thank you so much, Maryam.